We're ready to tackle the letter V. If you're going through the alphabet, congratulations, man. We're really in the home stretch. The letter V is fairly straightforward. It only has one trick, one kick to it. It starts out like many letters with my pen in the number 4 angle position, a little bit flatter than the traditional position. Starts out, I want to make sure the beginning of this line is horizontal, right? Don't start coming downhill too fast. So starts out horizontal, then curves down, as you may have heard me say a dozen times by now, to the 7 or 8 o'clock position if it was a clock face. Now, the next angle, this is one of the angle letters. All angle letters have a couple tricks to them. One of the tricks is that our italicized guidelines don't do us much good because nothing is parallel to those italicized guidelines, right? You have to angle, I'll do it this way, you have to angle your V in such a way that it looks like it's leaning at the proper angle. And that'll take a little bit of practice, a little bit of finagling to get that angle just right. So let's see if I did it right here. That angle, that goes straight down to the baseline. Now, the next stroke is, in my opinion, a matter of opinion. If you get online and look at many different Chancery cursives, you'll see many people that make this next stroke start at the top of the V and come down like that. I'm trying to do that fairly lightly so I can erase it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and there may be times when that is the perfect form of this letter. It may be personal taste, I'm not sure, but for me, I am inclined I feel like it's a little bit more elegant if I make this next stroke start above the rest of the letter. So this is one of those rare capital letters that actually goes a little bit higher than the capital letter guideline. And I'm holding my pen, I believe, at the traditional 3.5 or 30-degree angle and comes down and meets that V, and dang, that's pretty good. I will tell you that it doesn't always happen that well. Sometimes, you find out you didn't make this first, you made it too steep, or you didn't make it steep enough, or this, and so on and so forth. It doesn't look like it's got the italics angle. But that's not bad, so I'm going to leave it at that. I lucked out. Just pretend I do it that way every time, okay? Now let's talk about the lowercase v. Again, very, very traditional approach. Starts out with a little hook, comes down, straight down. By the way, let me mention something very quickly, shall I? On all of these angle letters, these are, in fact, the widest strokes that appear in Chancery cursive. Why? Because my pen is being held at this 3.5 or 30-degree angle. Therefore, I get the widest line when I go straight perpendicular to the way I'm holding the pen. Does that make sense? So these are the widest strokes that appear. Same thing that appears in the letter A and all the angle letters. There's one. Just want to make sure you understand that. So when that line comes out wide, you haven't done something wrong. You've done it exactly right. So lowercase v comes down to the baseline, stops there. And again, my opinion is the most elegant Chancery cursive V's. The second stroke starts above, just a little bit above that guideline, and comes down like that. Got it? Now, what happens, like we'll find out in a minute, what happens if after drawing this, I feel like that line is a little too thin, or a little too thick? Do you understand what to do? If you say, I think I did it right, but that line, it's fatter than I like. You already understand how to adjust that, right? That means you're going to change the angle of your pen ever so slightly so that when you do that stroke, do you see how this stroke is now thinner than that one? You make those changes, and it's your eye. It's not learning a bunch of rules. It's your eye that will tell you when to make those changes. Let's talk about how to attach the letter V to the next letter, and the answer is simple. It don't. It almost never, because there's nowhere you wouldn't do something like that. That violates the shape of the V completely. Would you do something from the top? No. So the answer, there you go. Do you understand? So this is not, when we say Chancery cursive, it's not like the cursive that you learned in 3rd grade, where all the letters are connected. No, they look like they're connected, but they aren't necessarily. However, what if the letter V is the last letter in a line of text? Now, again, that's a different story. Maybe we could do something. Let's see. We don't want to do anything from down here. That violates the letter completely. So the only option open to us to do something from the top of the letter, let me draw that again. And again, it's your eye that's going to answer this question. Will this work? If I write a letter V, and then if I add some kind of flourish to the end of it, does it still look like the letter V? And the answer is, yeah, kinda. So are you hearing me? So this would be a challenging one to add a flourish to, because it violates the shape of the letter a little bit too much. You might do it sometimes you just feel like you really need it. Those are decisions that you make because you're an artist and you're working on an entire creative piece, not just the individual letter. Well, I filled up most of this page, but I think I can still squeeze a few letters in. Let's go to the felt tip marker, which is the great way to practice calligraphy. Good enough to get the job done of practicing. There we go. And then the next, start above the line and come down and meet at that point. Now you might ask, well, what happens if this happens? What if you don't exactly hit it right on? My feeling is that's perfectly appropriate. It looks like a natural handwritten thing. Of course, if I missed it by a bunch, that would not be appropriate. It's okay if you hit right on the edge, that's okay too. Do you understand? Those things will happen, and it's your eye that will tell you when you've done the right thing. Lowercase v, very simple. Downstroke. Again, starting above that guideline, coming down to a corner. Let's just for fun take a minute and do the dip pen. By the way, this is India ink in my little well here with a little bit of water added to it. I find that just this ink by itself is a little too thick, a little too viscous to flow well in the pen. So I add water. How much water? Just till it works really well. Does that make sense? And then every once in a while, if you find that your pen is not working so well, that's why this bucket of water is here. It's to rinse it out, because you might have some old drying or getting thick ink in that pen. So that's, I always have a tissue available. I always have a bucket of water. I always have a piece of scrap paper. There we go. So capital V. Let's do it right over here. Flat angle, curve coming down. The widest stroke that this pen can make. Then the next stroke, starting above there and holding my pen at such an angle that I feel like I'm going to get a pleasantly thin line. Now see, did you see that? I missed it by that much that time. I feel like that's borderline. That's nice. I would, if I was practicing at home, I'd do that again and say, no, I think I can do better. So I'm going to try it one more time. There we go. That's better. Lowercase v, very intuitive, very simple. The downstroke, and then this sweet little elegant loop at the top. And there we are, the letter V. We're having fun. I hope you can keep going. I'm going to keep going.